So we're going to add this moving sprite. That's going to be kind of an enemy character. So I'm going to make a new sprite. So I'll right click on my sprites and then click new sprite. And I'll call this sprite underscore or SPR underscore moving enemy. And I'm gonna edit the image and go to image import. And I'm gonna get this free nature thing again. And let's make this window a little bigger. So I'm just gonna move over and down until I get that the top of that purple sprite. Okay, and then I'm gonna increase the size of the frame. Oh, now I have to go back. Whoops. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. So there's my purple enemy bush that I'm going to use. Okay. And so it's not animated, it's just a single sprite, but that's okay. This is just an example. So I have the sprite here, and I'm going to create a new object from this sprite. So I'll close this, and I'll close this one. And I'm going to go to objects and right click and create object. I'm going to call this object moving enemy. And it doesn't really matter what you call this. I'm just calling it moving enemy since that's what we're working on, just to make it obvious. And we'll put that sprite in there. We can look at the collision mask for this and just make sure it looks okay. So if we open the collision mask, it kind of covers the artwork. That's pretty good. If you wanted to make it a little bit easier to avoid, we could move the collision mask down here like that. So you could kind of get through parts of it, but if you get into the middle, you'll get hit. It doesn't really matter, but I think that'll be better for the gameplay. So let's go back to our moving enemy. And so what we're gonna do first is script this so that it can move. And part of what we want to see here is that we've already scripted the player to move, but that requires input. In this case, we're just going to be moving all the time. So we're just going to be using the game engine to move this sprite. I'm going to add a create event. And in the create event, I'm going to use a couple of variables to track the movement. So I'm just going to be moving horizontally on the x-axis. You could flip this around and go up and down on the y-axis, or you could move on both axes. But just to start and keep it simple, I'm just going to create a variable with the assigned variable block, and I'll call this x speed, like I have for the player. Since this is inside of this this object, I can use the same variable name, and it'll only apply to this object. And for the speed, I'm just going to do 1. We'll see how fast that goes, and then if it's too slow, we can increase it here, but we can change that. And then I'm going to have the enemy move back and forth. So I'm going to need to be able to flip the direction. So I'm going to do x underscore direction. And it filled in one of these things for me. I didn't want that. So if that ever happens, just hit escape, and it'll get rid of those suggestions, and then we can just leave that here. And then the direction is either going to be 1 or -1. So if it's 1, we'll be going to the right. If it's -1, we'll be going to the left. So I'm going to change the default. The starting direction is 1. So it'll start off going to the right. So these variables will get assigned when I first start the scene, and this enemy gets created. So now I'm going to go back to the moving enemy. So I'm going to double click and add a step event. So the step event will happen every frame of our game. And for this one, the movement, doing the enemy movement is very easy because we basically just want to go back and forth. We don't really have to do all the same input detection that we did with our player. We can just change the variable for the enemy. So we're going to go to assign variable, and we're going to assign the x variable. So all of our objects have a built-in x variable, which determines where we draw the object. The thing that's going to be a little different is I'm going to put in a formula in the value. So we haven't done this before, but what I'm going to do to change the x variable in my step function is I'm going to multiply the speed by the direction. So I'm going to say x speed times x direction. And what this allows us to do is flip the direction. So the speed is going to be constant. At least in this version, it's going to be constant, but the direction is going to change from 1 to -1. So if we take the speed times 1, we'll go to the right, and if we take the speed times -1, we'll go to the left. And we're going to say this is relative, so it's going to add 2x rather than replacing x. And so now, this is all we need to do to get the movement started. We need to do a little bit more to make sure it doesn't just jump off the screen. But we'll preview this and then we'll do that. So let's add our moving enemy here, and then we'll run the scene, and hopefully we'll see the enemy move. So we see our enemy moving, but the enemy just disappears off the side of the screen. So we need to add a little bit more scripting to the enemy to decide when to change directions. And so depending on the way your scene is set up, so in my scene, I have like these platforms, but there's nothing like on the sides that are like walls for the enemy to bounce off of. So if you have walls, you can kind of bounce off the walls. I should do an example like that. I'll do an example like that maybe on another level, just because that may be something that you guys will want to use. But for now, what we want to decide is if the enemy is about to kind of like fall off the platform. And so what we can do is use the relative position of the enemy and see if it's interacting with the platform. So this is kind of like the opposite of when the player is standing on a platform, we want the player to be able to jump. And so that's why in my player script, if we take a look at that again, I have this part in the script where I'm checking to see if the object is right above the platform by seeing if I would be overlapping the platform if I was 1 pixel lower. That's what this if object at place with the y set to 1. So what I can do is do that, but then kind of do the opposite to make sure that I'm, to check if I'm not overlapping with the platform. So let's go back to my moving enemy. So after I set the speed, I'm gonna bring an if value here, or no, sorry, first I want my overlapping, or what is it called, at place. Yeah, I want my at place. So we're gonna check to see if I'm on the platform, and we're gonna use relative x and y. And this one, I'm gonna ask if I'm like 1 above the platform the same way, but I'm also gonna check the x to see if I'm kind of like slightly overlapping the platform. And so I think I'm gonna set x to like negative, let's try -16, so it'll be like a quarter over. And if that's the case, I'm gonna flip the direction around. So I'm gonna set the variable, and I'm gonna set the x direction to x direction times -1. So this is a little bit tricky, but I'm basically, whatever the direction is, I'm flipping it over. So if the direction is positive and I multiply it by negative, it'll become negative. If it's negative, I multiply it by negative, then it becomes positive. So this basically just flips the direction over. So let's see if that works. I think I set it up backwards, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I set it up backwards. So let's change x from -16 to 16. So now when he gets to a certain part, okay, no. Oh, sorry, I forgot to flip this. So if he's not overlapping with the platform at this part. Okay, now I need to flip this backwards. This one is a little trickier. Okay, he's still not moving. Okay, maybe let's try 32. No. Okay. For some reason I have this backwards. So he's going to the right. If he's... Oh, I think actually, let's see. Let's test this. No. Maybe I don't want the Y. Sorry, I'm forgetting. Whoops. The logic here. Okay, let's think through this. So if he's moving and he's at the platform, at a certain point he'll not be at the platform. Yeah, no, this should be 1. And let's try like 64. It's weird because he's not moving at all. Okay, let's try that again. So let's run this. Let's make sure he's moving. Okay. So he's moving. So then we want to check if he's not on the platform. Whoops. Okay, so if object at platform X and Y, and then 1, and X is, let's say, negative 64. This direction. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, maybe I have this. Maybe I need to move. Oh, crap. Okay, this is what I always forget to do. With our sprite, we need to reset the origin point. Shoot, I always forget this. Okay, bottom center. Okay, so we need to be checking not this top left, but this bottom center of our sprite. Okay, now he's up there. All right, let's try that again. Let's move him down. He's still not going. Okay, I'll have to debug this. I don't know what I have missing here. Okay, this just is, I don't think, this lot, sorry, for some reason this just isn't working correctly, and it doesn't make sense logic-wise, so I don't know if there's an issue with my sprite. The collision mask looks fine. Okay, so now he's running again. So if object at platform x64 not, and maybe if I just increase y, let's do y is like 10. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I think my art is just not set up that well, so the 1 pixel isn't far enough. But let's try this again. Okay, so maybe if it's even just like 2 pixels. What did I miss here? Okay, what about 1 pixel? Okay, so the art is just like slightly not large enough. I have to look a little bit farther. Okay, so anyway, notice that when I do hit sort of this edge, which I don't have it set up right now, but we can change that. So we can set X to like 16. And so now when it gets to the edge of that platform, it goes back. And the reason for that is because it's checking to see if I'm off the platform, but not based on the center of the sprite, but 16 pixels to the right. And so that's why I make it with the bottom of my sprite to the edge of the platform before I switch. So now we want to flip it around. Right now it's going past the left side of the platform, but then it's hitting this platform over here, so that's why it's switching back. So what we want to do is basically copy this whole thing and just do the same thing for the other direction. So I'm going to copy this and paste it and just do -16 for X. And so now it should move back and forth on the platform. Okay. But I haven't programmed in, one thing that's annoying now is that I still have to program in that this is a enemy sprite. So I have to go back to my player, and I already have this set up, but where I have the, where is it? So let's see. Where do I have? Oh, maybe it's in the cactus. Yeah. So I also have to detect the player. So if I hit, so I basically just want to copy this group of code from the cactus to my moving enemy. So I'm gonna just grab all those nodes and hit copy, Command C, and then go to moving enemy and add this into the step. So I don't have that much space here, but let's try to get over here. So I'll just paste this in. So now we say if object at place, if we hit the player, we're gonna restart this room and we reset the player's speed. So now this should also behave like an enemy. So if I hit the cactus, it resets the room. And so now this is a slightly more challenging obstacle because I have to kind of time my jump. All right, so let's add the cactus into another room, and this time we're gonna use walls instead of the platforms. So I'm gonna have to redesign the room a little bit. I'm gonna grab the platform object and I'll just make like a little area in here for my enemy. So I'll move my moving enemy right here. And so now if I have these platforms, the enemy will want to hit the wall, not just leave the platform. So we basically use the same logic for that. We can detect if the enemy is hitting these walls by kind of changing the parameters of our detection. So I'm going to set room 2 to be the main room for testing and go back into my moving enemy. And so I'm just showing these 2 different ways of doing this. You don't have to have both of them, obviously. It's just, you know, whatever you want for your project. So we basically have to, copy this whole section again, but we're going to kind of switch around the logic a little bit. So I'm going to grab these two, copy, and I'll paste it after this one. And so now what we want to say is if we are interacting with a platform, but this time I'm going to set y back to 0 and set x. We can leave x at 16. We might have to say, or we might have to say a little more actually. We might have to say like 32. And we'll do the same thing here. We're just going to flip the direction. So now on this level, you can see we still hit those walls, even though, or using that logic. So we can hit this wall. I think 32 is still actually too close. Let's try maybe like 24. See how that looks. Even that's too close. Maybe we don't need, if we just do 16. Okay, so yeah, now it kind of bounces over there. And you might say, actually, it's fine if it overlaps a little bit. It's really just dependent on how your particular game works. But then just to wrap this up, I'm going to copy these guys. So I'm just going to copy and paste and then move this under here. So this is getting pretty long. But yeah. Yeah, last time I had an issue because I had to reset the DPI. Okay, so now I've got this guy bouncing off the walls. So again, you could have it bouncing off the walls. You can have it looking for if it's standing on a platform. You could have it moving up and down. You could just flip everything from X to Y, and you'll get vertical movement rather than horizontal movement. You can also change the speed. If you want it to go faster, just go into this speed variable. And if we set that to 2, it's going to be really fast. And, we could go faster than that. And so now we have a little moving enemy. So this is really basic. Obviously, if you wanted to do more complex things like moving around the scene or following the player, you'd have to script more stuff. So if you have specific features that you want to try to add, we could talk about how to do it. But these are just some basics to get you started. So as usual, I will export this script. So what I'm going to do is create a local package. And for this one, I'm just going to call this enemy object. And I'm just going to put the enemy object in here so you don't have to, import everything again. I'll say OK. And I'm just going to put this, I guess I'll put this in my project folder just to stay organized. I'll put this as exports. Okay, for some reason it never lets me create the package the first time. Oh, I have to update the project tool. Okay, this is where I ran into issues last time. I can't actually see on the screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, that doesn't really help. Can I gotta learn some more GameMaker key commands. Okay, I already have this, so that's not the issue. Okay, now I'm stuck with this. Okay. Okay, let's try changing the display name. Maybe it doesn't like underscores. And do it again. Okay, this is updated. Okay, I'll figure this out and upload it. I don't know why it never lets me do this the first time I try it, but I was able to figure it out last time. I'm finding more and more that GameMaker is pretty buggy. So if you're running into issues, let me know and we can try to troubleshoot it. Let's try it one more time. Maybe my file name and my display name have to be different. Okay. I'll figure it out and upload it to Brightspace, but